So hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video, and today I want to take a look at our newest Flammenwerfer, the Ignis Wraith. Now if you didn't get Ignis Wraith during the Pacifism Defect event, which is now over, the only way for you to get it is to get into one of the clans that managed to score in the top 10% in their respective clan tier, because those clans got Ignis Wraith as a permanent research in the Grenier lab. Now compared to the normal Ignis, the Wraith does 2 less damage, so it only does 25 damage with each tick, but it has 30% status chance compared to the original's 25, 12% crit chance compared to the original's 5, and it also has 50 more rounds in the magazine for a grand total of 200. So even though it does slightly less damage per tick than the original Ignis, it actually does more damage overall, because even if you don't build for crit, you're still gonna crit more often, resulting in higher DPS. The extra 5% status chance is kind of nice, but it's not that big of a deal because the Ignis is considered a beam weapon, so it uses status per second, and status per second is somewhat wonky to say the least. And finally, the extra magazine size is a pretty nice quality of life change because you just don't have to reload it as often as the regular one. You also have to be at least mastery rank 6, whereas for the normal one you had to be 4, and since it has 50 more rounds in the magazine, it also has 50 more rounds in total, so it has 800 rounds versus the original 750. And other than that, it's pretty much the same as the normal Ignis. It does raw heat damage, which you can either combine into blast with cold, gas with toxin, or radiation with electricity. It has innate multi-shot and also about 2 meter innate punch through, which is great for dealing with groups of enemies and also breaking containers and resource nodes because you can shoot through walls. The build I ended up with is a 4 Forma build where I've added 4 Vs, and it's a hybrid build that's using Serration for more damage, Split Chamber for multi-shot, Heavy Caliber for even more damage, and the negative accuracy is actually good because it means you cover a slightly larger area with it. Then I'm using Point Strike for critical chance, Vital Sense for critical damage, High Voltage combined with Malignant Force for some status chance and corrosive damage, so I ended up with corrosive and heat, and finally I'm using Speed Trigger. Now I like to use Speed Trigger because it increases the frequency of the damage tick, so it increases the DPS quite considerably, and it also increases the status chance. However, this will make the weapon very ammo inefficient. So you will have to run at least carrier for ammo mutation, otherwise you're gonna be out of ammo all the time. But here's the thing, you can swap this out for a bazillion different things. The 2 most obvious choices here would either be Thermite round, so you get more heat damage overall, or Rime round, so you end up with corrosive and blast. But you can also swap it for Argon Scope if you don't mind aiming down sights, because, well, you're using a flamethrower, and even if you're aiming at the enemy's feet, you will probably hit their head as well. Then there is Sinister Reach if you don't care about the damage and you just want to increase the range of the weapon, because it is locked at 40 meters and it has quite considerable damage drop-off, or you can use Firestorm for generally bigger area of effect. Or you can even use one of my favorite mods, Combustion Beam, which will greatly increase the AoE potential of the weapon in sort of low to mid-level missions, because all enemies you kill will explode and damage enemies around them. Now the second setup I like to use is pretty much the same hybrid build, but it's using gas instead of corrosive and heat. I like both of these setups equally, they're both really good, but generally the gas setup is better versus the Corpus and the Infested because they generally have more units, and gas is really good at dealing with a lot of cannon fodder units thanks to the additional AoE from the gas procs, and the toxin damage over time effect it leaves behind is really good versus flesh, especially versus the Corpus because it also bypasses shields. But it kind of suffers versus enemies that have heavy armor like the Grenier, so while it will do the job in lower level missions, it's not going to be that great in higher level missions. And I really don't like using the gas setup versus the Corrupted because their resistances to gas and toxin are all over the place, so the damage is very inconsistent. And the corrosive and heat setup is pretty much the other way around. It's better versus bigger, beefier and heavily armored units, and it's not so great versus the other units. It's going to do the job versus the Corpus, but especially units that have high shields are going to give you a little bit of trouble. Versus the Infested, it's going to be slower at killing the cannon fodder units, so the Chargers, Leapers and stuff like that, but it's going to kill the beefier units much faster, so units like the Boilers, Moas and Ancients. It's fantastic versus the Grenier because you're stripping away their armor with corrosive and you're damaging their flesh with heat. And while the damage can still be somewhat inconsistent versus the Corrupted, it's much better than the gas because you don't have any heavily shielded units, so overall it just deals with all of them much better. But as I said in the beginning, both of these setups will do the job, okay? So while gas is better versus flesh and not so good versus armor, and corrosive is the other way around, the difference isn't astronomical. Now, a lot of people are somewhat disappointed with Ignis Wraith because they expected more of an upgrade, something they can take into Sortie 3, Sargas Rook Assassination, and just one-shot him with it. But I am fairly happy with the buff. It is definitely noticeable, especially the bonus crit chance. Even if you don't build for crit, as I've said already, the damage increase is noticeable. For me, the Ignis is a weapon that I use for the solo chart. I don't really use it for sorties. Every now and then I will take it into Sortie 1, especially versus Corpus or the Infested. But I don't think this weapon needs to kill level 100 bombards in just a couple of poofs. Ignis is already one of the, if not the best weapon for the star chart, because in low to mid-level missions, you're gonna one-shot pretty much everything, and even in high-level missions, like in the Kuva Fortress, it's gonna take 2 or 3 poofs and you will take down even the toughest units. It's fantastic for running fissure missions of all 4 tiers. It's awesome for running alerts, Kuva siphons, not floods. In my opinion, floods are a little bit too high level for the Ignis, but siphons, definitely worth it. It's awesome when you use it with Sarin to pop spores, and I could go on and on and on. So in my opinion, the Ignis Wraith doesn't need to do bazillion damage with each poof. It's good enough as it is. So I would definitely recommend getting Ignis Wraith. It's just a better version of the normal Ignis. And if you unfortunately didn't get at least the blueprint during the event, you can try and get yourself into one of the clans that scored in the top 10%. Or, and this is by the way just a rumor, I've heard that either the blueprint or the weapon itself is tradable, so that may be an option, but as I've said already, just a rumor that I've heard on the internet, okay? And that's pretty much it. However, before I end the video, I just quickly want to glance over one more thing. If your clan didn't at least get the blueprint during the event, you should probably look for a different clan. Because there are people that will lead you to believe that getting Ignis Wraith was a massive grind. It wasn't. Saying that getting Ignis Wraith was hard is just a load of bollocks. I mean, after they reduced the points needed to get the blueprint, if only 1/5 of your clan was active and did the event, each person had to rescue about 32 or 33 defectors in the 3rd mission. That's it. And if only 1/10 of your clan was active, so if for example you're maintaining your own ghost clan, each person had to rescue about 65, and you can do that on your own or in a public group with kind of shitty gear. So once again, if your clan didn't at least get the blueprint, you should look for a new one because it's just far too inactive and you're gonna lose out on more stuff because they're pushing this clan participation. So they're gonna do more things like this. So if you're in, for example, a mountain clan that only has like 2 or 3 people playing in it and the warlord is not there anymore, so he's not gonna downsize the clan, just leave it. If you're in this situation, it would actually be better for you to start your own ghost clan because the research isn't gonna be as expensive and you're also not gonna lose out on cool event items like this one. I would of course recommend to get into an already existing clan that's somewhat active and it's looking for members, but if you just enjoy, playing on your own every now and then, getting your own ghost clan could actually be better than staying in a massive moon clan that only has like you and one other dude playing in it. But anyway, I think I've been rambling for long enough, so I thank you very much for watching as always, and I will see you next time. Bye bye!